Welcome.
It's time for the further adventures of Indiana Jones.
The greatest adventures of all time.
I don't know. I'm making this up as I go.
Pack your bag, grab your passport, and prepare to go globetrotting with Marvel Comics' classic four-color adventures of Indiana Jones.
Jones?
Mr. Jones, I've heard a lot about you, sir. Your appearance is exactly the way I imagined.
Son of a...
I'm here now. What do you want to talk about?
Welcome once again, Further fans, IndyCast listeners, to the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones. Oh, great segment again today. I'm Joe Stuber, joined, as always, by my partner in Further Adventures, Keith Voss. Keith, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Joe. I just got my limited edition Indy Blu-rays. I can't wait to dive into these this weekend. That's all I got to say. I ripped open the box like Ralphie from A Christmas Story when he got his Red Ryder BB gun. Yeah, I just tore that box open.
Put an eye out.
I almost I almost shot my eye out with all that great stuff that was in the box. Haven't watched anything yet though. I'm waiting for the weekend. I have the weekend completely free. I'm gonna dive into that sucker. Also on the way to me, finally, after all these years, I've been looking for a Temple of Doom vintage belt buckle, and thanks to Les David, he sent me a link to that. Got that. So this is just a great time to be an Indy fan.
It is a great time to be an Indy fan, and I would be just as excited as you are, but my Blu-ray player crapped out on me.
You gotta be kidding.
It was while I was watching Raiders. Yeah, I was watching the extras on Raiders, and it just locked up. And
that's the power of the Arc.
You know what? It's
Blu-ray
beautiful!
Player
and then it just happened. Yeah, it just happened.
It is broken.
I'm so frustrated. I got to go get a new Blu-ray player, but yeah. So you know what? I'm sure everything is great on it. I'll look forward to seeing it all, probably when you do too. But
you can make so many jokes. Like for every movie, you could say the power of the Arc destroyed it. Molar Ram ripped the heart out of your Blu-ray player. Your Blu-ray player aged unexpectedly when you put in Last Crusade.
The power of the triple Herkimer pure distilled.
Yeah,
I think I needed some out of that after that.
You drank a little too much Herkimer Diamond Deep Aquifer Pure Spirit vodka, and you broke it yourself, Joe.
Needed some after that. A little frustrating, but hey, it's there. I got it here, so we're good. But yeah, a lot of great presents coming our way the past couple weeks.
Indeed. And we got a great present from our current guest in Club Obi-Wan.
That would be Dan the Man Reed, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be Dan the Man. Dynamic Dan. We've been writing emails to each other, and after the first part of our interview aired, I mean, I was writing back and forth with Dan, and he mentioned in the first part of his interview that he wished he could do the covers.
Yeah, he said he was a little jealous. A little jealous of Chaykin.
Well, I told him, why not? You still could do those. I mean, and if you saw already on our Facebook page, we got...
Sure enough.
We got
a
cover. A brand new cover to issue number 9. An amazing cover, if you ask me too. I mean, he colored it. He put the title on there. 30 years after this comic was released, Dan Reed comes back and gives us a brand new cover.
Full pencils, inks, color, everything. And he found a Marvel template for the cover in his basement. He still had the template there, so he did it on the Marvel print. So it's got all the little things in the corners and the side margins and everything. It's...
How cool.
You know what? It was awesome. That just, he said, hey, I'm gonna do something for it. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Let's take a look at it. And I had no idea what was going to be coming our way when it hit the inbox. And I was like, when we first got the pencils and inks, that was great. I mean, I love that. I'm like, this is sweet. Yeah. And then all of a sudden we get...
Just took it a step further then.
Oh, it's got the full-blown
No pun
thing.
intended.
Oh, man. I'm telling you what, that's going up on the wall. I mean, that is absolutely going up on the wall. So, yeah, get over to the Facebook page. Get over to the Flickr page, the IndyCast Flickr page. Check those out. They are awesome. And we want some feedback because today we're going to finish up our interview with Dan Reed. We got part 2 of our interview. But following that, coming up on the segments after that, Keith and I are going to be reviewing issues 9 and 10. We want your feedback on all this. Send us some emails. Let us know what you think of Dan's artwork. He also did some pencils and inks from Raiders, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade. He did some very cool stuff. That's all up there. Let us know what you think about that. We'll read those emails. We really want to get your input on all this as well. What do you say, Keith? Why don't we head into Club Obi-Wan and finish up our interview with Dan Reed? And should we get a few drinks?
I'm ready. Let's let the drinks flow.
Well, how about the likenesses, too, of the actors? We talked about Harrison Ford. We talked, how about Karen Allen, Denholm Elliott? I noticed on some of the books, some of the artists were tried to get exact likenesses. Others didn't. They kind of brought their own flair to it. I'm noticing with yours, you kind of brought your own flair to it a little bit more. Was that intentional? Were you trying to just make it not exactly like the actors?
I find it's very hard to capture a few people. And other people, it's amazingly simple. And of course, again, I was a lot younger. Since then, I've gotten into portrait painting. So I mean, I really, I made an art form of it, but or studied it to try to study it to be an art form. But anyway, I don't think I quite captured him. I think he's a little tough. I'll tell you the other guy who's really tough, and I tried for years, and it's hard. And I've never seen anyone really do it properly in comic books. Really, really good is William Shatner, Captain Kirk. He's sort of got this face, same thing as Harrison Ford, that is very unique when you see it, and yet it's not when you go to draw it.
Yeah, I know exactly because I have a lot of the Star Trek comic books, and that's Spock, easy.
Yeah.
Kirk, not so much.
McCoy, not a problem. Kirk, there's something about him, and yet, when you see those old episodes of Star Trek, I'm a huge fan. William Shatner has a very distinct, as Harrison Ford, but by God, when you go down to draw them, they've got, what do they say, the everyman face.
Yeah, I don't think
it's not until you sit down to draw it that you realize how true that is. Go ahead.
Well, with Shatner, it's the inflection, so you can't draw inflection. You're just drawing a guy. Where Spock, you got the ears, you got the eyebrows. McCoy, you got the eyebrows and the scowl. So you have some things to work with there. But yeah, it's sort of an everyman. A lot of the artists we talked to mentioned Harrison Ford. Very tough to draw.
Very tough to draw. I thank you. I'm glad I'm not the only one who thought so.
No, because they also said that he doesn't have that classic handsome face. It's just kind of like you said, that every guy.
And you don't think that at least I don't when I'm watching it, but when you sit down to draw it, you realize that you're in trouble.
And you're on deadline.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, and they didn't give me like a stack of stills. I mean, some, but like a handful. So, I mean, there's only so many angles, and after that, you got to start making it up. Now, these days, it wouldn't be quite as hard because you have all these DVDs and stuff, but there was no such thing back then. You couldn't have a mini DVD machine to help you with the movie, all the movies, where you could just sit down and go, okay, and pause it. There was no such thing.
Well, how tough was that? What's easier for you to draw? Just sort of these buildings and skyscrapers and all these things we're doing here, or the action? We see like a lot of Indian Marion running and jumping and this is that. So what's easier?
Yeah, I like
what's
that sort of thing. To get New York in the 30s, there's only so many books on the subject, and I'm not the only one who lifted images. So after a while, I guess I try to make it, very. I didn't. A lot of people they say, oh, you should project that, but I wanted to do it by hand, just by sight of all this. I mean, it's fun, it's challenging, but I think the facial expressions, the movements, comic books are about action. I mean, that's what comic books do best. There's things that work in a comic book that when you put them on the screen, it's like a little funny looking. But in a comic book form, these guys running around doing all this stuff, it just works, I mean, it's...
And these two, you're definitely correct there. These two issues just have so much action in them. I mean, these are really two of the most action-packed issues. I mean, you have plane chases, you have wrestling alligators. He's going from building to building, and there's
the amount of reference I had to go find all this stuff.
Yeah,
you get him in the jungle. You want to? I sat down and bought all these books on jungle plants and stuff. So that all my jungle scenes looked authentic.
You did. Well, I'm looking at some of these things. You've got like these plantains and stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. You did an equal amount of it seems like cityscapes and jungles. It's incredible. You went from one extreme to the next. Amazing.
Yeah, it's like bales of copra and plantain are taken aboard, and you've got these trees looking down through these fruits and things.
Got little frogs and animals and insects, and I remember I researched all of it, so I'm glad. Yeah,
you really did it all. I mean, you give trucks and buildings and boats and planes, and wow, you really just you brought us back into Indy's world quite perfectly.
Thank you. One of the problems I had, which I found to be really tough, and I'd like to know all these years later that now somebody's letting me know that he's looking at this, is I don't know if I pulled it off, but when he was up there, I looked everywhere for reference points to pull this off, and since then I still look from time to time, and I've never seen it satisfactorily done, is when you're on the edge of a building. Mm-hmm. How do you pull off that perspective to really give that feeling that somebody's on the edge of that building? That was one of the hardest things I have ever done, period, was that fall. And that whole sequence when they're up there on those buildings. That, to me, that was really tough to have him fall down into a chasm and make it work. That's to me, I don't know, but you guys, maybe you don't think so. To me,
well, no, you got those vertical panels, which I thought was kind of cool, but you did that, and it's almost looking like a camera movement as you're following him from a distance, and it sort of just kind of swoops in closer and closer, and then you see the gunshot, you see, and I'm looking at issue 10 now, too, where he's kind of hanging on, and Zomek, was that, I'm trying to see, was that Zomek at the beginning, or that was just one of the...
No, it's just one of the other Jovitos.
One of the other Jovitos is up there with his foot on Indy's hand, and then he goes off, so... Yeah, and then you've just got the ladder coming down. So, yeah, I think you just hit it from a bunch of different angles, and that's probably all you can really do with that, because in a two-dimensional world.
It's really I found that to be difficult. So maybe I didn't pull that off as well as I should have.
You did pull it off for sure.
And I love the shot of Marion up the top of there too.
Yeah, it's great. You definitely get a sense of like the wind whipping around. I mean, it's just you do feel like you're there.
But you have to admit that the flagpole was pretty corny.
It's Indiana Jones. It's no worse than a fridge.
Jones? Yeah, exactly. It's no worse than swinging on vines with monkeys.
It's no worse than a raft going out of a plane.
My favorite Indiana Jones moment of all time is the refrigerator.
Really?
It's no worse than a fridge.
I loved it because that is so Indiana Jones. Somebody said to me, they said, but that's ridiculous. I said, but Indiana Jones did the impossible and ridiculous.
That's
and
right.
he pulled it off.
When the life raft went out of the plane in Temple of Doom, to me, in 1984, all bets were off.
Exactly.
It's crazy. We buy it.
Exactly.
The flagpole
you don't understand
fits perfectly.
that I talked to somebody and they didn't understand, and another guy was looking at me and laughing. He says, "This guy just doesn't understand Indiana Jones." They said, "But it didn't make any." I said, "No, that was the essence of Indiana Jones."
If you don't want to go to see Indiana Jones escape out of whatever situation he's in with whatever means necessary, you're at the wrong movie. You're in the wrong place.
Exactly.
And hey, talk about crazy. Let's look at that panel with Ilsa Tote and her reflecting on her brother, a little flashback of Arnold Ernst Tote. I mean, depending on whether you read the novel or whether you're reading this book, but some crazy stuff there. What were you thinking? You got a little...
wait a minute! Is that psychedelic scene?
Yeah, you kind of went out there
in Miami, okay?
You kind of went Steranko there a little bit, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. I grew up in Miami. All right. No.
Care to elaborate? Leave it
Dude, I'm playing, guys. Come on. But no, I'm not. No. Cut that out.
No, cut that
anyway,
out.
But I love Jim Steranko's work. There's. Yeah, it's sort of a little psychedelic, I'm going to leave it at I grew up in Miami and get out of here before I get in any more trouble.
I like it. It's cool. That's one of my favorite panels.
Well, you grew up in Miami. Okay, we have a pretty intense action scene here with Indiana Jones versus Crocs, or are they alligators? Because it's never mentioned in the book. So let's get the definitive word from you. Are they alligators or crocodiles?
Alligators.
All right. Done.
Go. Crocodile snouts are much thinner.
Okay.
Isn't that strange how they never mention it?
Between the two.
They never mention it in the book.
It's not in here? They didn't say if it's crocodile or alligator?
It's never mentioned in the book. It's just they refer to them...
reptiles.
They refer to it that way, and then also, let's see...
dinner guests is my favorite.
My dinner guests, before my dinner guests.
Well, I think maybe they didn't see, but I mean,
I wonder if Michelini didn't know.
Maybe I wasn't clear enough, because you could see the snout looks a little crocodile-ish. It's in this one picture. It looks a little thinner, but I remember I used reference, and I was using alligators, so maybe I don't know. I
bet he was hedging his bet. I bet he hedged his bet and didn't put it in.
Yeah, because, growing up in South Florida, then I'm quite aware of the difference between an alligator and a crocodile. Crocodiles have really thin snouts, so it's it's a totally different look.
Another mystery solved. Hey, on that plane, excellent artwork on that. We love this whole sequence.
Thank you.
What a perfect Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones adventure ending here. And that one, it's not fully a splash page, but with the plane kind of taking off. But I love the sound effect of it right before it hits the water, and use that as the artwork.
Yes.
That is, you talk about comic books, why comic books are so special. I love that.
You can't do that in any other medium and pull that off.
No, you can't. Not at all.
No.
And you pulled it off nicely. And before that, before the explosion, we get a great little fight scene between Indy and Zomek.
Awesome.
And
stuff.
that's just it's just very cinematic feeling. Both issues really feel very cinematic. And as we say, the early issues of Further Adventures of Indiana Jones pulled it off very nicely. It felt very cinematic, especially since this was the quote-unquote sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark.
We could have made it a little more of a sequel if I had Indiana Jones pull the Indian guy into the blaze, and he looks the other way.
Yeah, well, these books aren't exactly like Joe and I have mentioned this on our segment before. They're not exactly Richie Rich comic books or Archie comics. I mean, there's people getting stabbed, there's people getting killed, and even in your opening page of issue 9, we have Saad Hassim. He's got a knife in his chest, and the blood is pooling. And these aren't really so much kids comics. So that would have been very fitting, actually. The whip goes around Indy's wrist. He pulls him into the blade. We had a nice little callback there to Raiders. But I think the way it was actually done in the story is even better, especially the way that the script was laid out. You have the above, Indiana Jones watches a fate that could have been his. Below, because that's how the issue starts out. It's a nice callback to the beginning of the issue. So.
Well, I think this is one of those things where, like, you see certain movies and they seem to have some of the same stunt effects, and that this is what they hired X amount of stuntmen who this is their specialty. So this was the falling issue. There was a lot of falling.
Yeah.
And at the very end,
buildings, falling off airplanes,
falling into water. And you know what? Indy may have lost his hat, but he got the idol, and that's the important thing. So
and he beat the boulder.
Yes, he did.
The boulder.
He beat the boulder.
So, Mr. Reed, what do you think about overall your place now in Indy history? You've got these 2 books. What do you think about this? And even all these years later, we're still talking about it, and people are loving them, and they're being reprinted.
I just wish I was getting some money for it, but well, that's the only problem.
Fortune and glory.
I get money. No, I get money for all the other stuff I've done for Marvel, but not for. And most of my work was done with Transformers and Indiana Jones and these big movie things, and Marvel doesn't retain the rights to them. They only licensed it for a short period of time.
Right.
So there's no money involved. But that being said, I love the idea that you guys would call me out of the blue and or email me rather, and all these years later, and still to have people interested in these issues. That it means a lot to me. I appreciate it, guys. It's very nice.
Well, we get a kick out of talk. I mean, it's a kick for us to kind of go back because there's such a huge nostalgia factor for us. But then to actually get the stories from the creators behind it, I think that's such a kick for us and for our listeners too. Keith, what do you think?
Well, I am in total agreement there. It is definitely a big nostalgia thing for me. I had these issues as a kid, and to be able to go back and talk to the creators now, it's a big thrill for me. But I also. We talk about nostalgia a little bit here. Why do you feel that Indiana Jones, the character of Indiana Jones and the world he inhabits, why do you feel it's still so popular today, 30 plus years after the original movie? Why is he still chugging on?
I don't know if I can answer that 100%, but I can tell you that every so often, somebody comes up with a character that's an immortal. I mean, and maybe Indiana Jones won't be, I don't know, or it's a little soon, but, I mean, he has the feeling of being up there with, like, Tarzan or something like that, or Superman. I mean, he's just, this incredible, there was something nice about the fact that here's this guy who's a very calm-spoken, soft-spoken professor of archaeology who just can turn around at one moment and heft a whip and a gun and look at Marcus Brody and says, besides, Marcus, you know what a careful man I am. I mean,
Yes.
you know, when you get a character who can lay a line like that on you and you're 100% buying it, plus the action, the adventure, there's something about him. I don't know what it is. It's hard to describe,
No,
but it's like it turns my buttons.
I agree. You definitely get a sense already just from the short time you've spent with him up until that point where he does say, you know what a cautious fellow I am. You understand him completely. You've seen both sides of him already. You've seen the action-adventure side. You've seen the professor side. And now you know, oh, okay, he's a dangerous guy. He's a dangerous guy. And you just don't know what to expect next after that.
Well, you said he pushes your buttons. Dark Horse has a license now. Let's just say somebody's going to come up with a couple more adventures here, and Dan Reed gets the call.
Woo! Yeah, I'd take the call.
What do you want to do with the character? Where do you want to place him? What kind of things do you want to see? And can he keep the hat this time?
Yes, he can definitely keep the hat this time.
What would you do with him?
What would you? Let me throw it on you guys because I mean, you know, you have the whole audience there. What is it you would like to see? What do you think people would
40s.
like to see?
40s.
Yeah.
I want to see him as a
personally,
soldier. Yeah,
Personally, I would love to see him as a soldier, getting involved somehow in the Bermuda Triangle. I know that was something that was thrown around. That was an idea that Frank Marshall kind of put the kibosh on that. Like people were throwing that the whole Bermuda Triangle. I would love to see him during the war.
Those referenced adventures in Crystal Skull. He references them. I want to see them.
We got one of them. With Indiana Jones and the Army of the Dead. Not one of Joe's favorite books.
No.
I personally really like it, but I would like to see more of World War II Indy. And like I said, I would love to see him during the war tackle the mystery, the disappearances of some pilots. What's going on in the Bermuda Triangle? That's where I would like to see Indy.
But still in the fedora and the whip and the jacket.
Oh yeah. I was thinking after you guys were talking, I was thinking, what about they did all that stuff about that ship that supposedly disappeared, and they think it went. There was speculation that it moved in time and all that sort of business. I mean, there's a lot of things you could do.
Hey, we could connect all that to Bermuda Triangle. That's all I
Absolutely.
have to say. Why don't we? Hey, I think we should all get together after this segment's over, and put something together and pitch it to Dark Horse. What do you think?
Come on, Dark Horse. You know what? I think that'd be perfect, and I think
Dan
we
Reed
would love to see you take another crack at it.
Ah, that sounds great. You guys are my heroes. I'm liking you guys.
We're liking you.
But no. There's always a catch, though. You ready? This time I do the covers.
Agreed.
I love Howard Chaykin, but not that much. Not again.
So what's on your drawing board right now? What have you got going on? There's got to be some things that you're just itching to get out to the public here.
Well, I've been doing a lot of science fiction painting and some short stories. I'm trying to get e-published, and a lot of comic book related painting. And if you go to my website, www.imshamelessbastardartblazer.com, if you're allowed to put that in. And shamelessly, now we could say that again. Shamelessly, once again, yeah. But if you go there, you can see a lot of the work that I've been up to. And my wife is also a painter, although she's not into comic books. She's more in abstract work. But, hey, I've been married 22 years to this wonderful, gorgeous woman, and she has put up with my comic book fanaticism. I'm telling you.
Oh, I think a lot of us have that story.
Here's to our wives.
Here.
Here. There we go.
My wife too puts up, and actually yesterday was our 2-year anniversary. So we she
hasn't thrown the Indy stuff out into the dumpster yet, right?
Hasn't thrown it out yet. So
that's a good.
2 whole years. You're doing very good. Try 22. Say hi to Eve. Say hello.
Hello.
Hello. You know, Gene Colan's wife was even nice enough to, when we mailed it to her, to autograph the book about comic book creators' wives.
I have to live with this guy. You remember that book? I have to live with this guy.
Oh well, hey, thank you for that cameo appearance there, and we do thank our wives for putting up with all of this nonsense. So, Mr. Reed, this has been a pleasure.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Nah, we really appreciate this, and thanks for going through the issues with us, and thank you for keeping the book on track. I know that was, I think it saved us from a couple of fill-in issues, some of those things that sit in a drawer somewhere that Kerry Gamble talked to us about. So thanks for keeping it back on track and giving us a very cool adventure. I mean, that is just one of our favorites.
Best. One of the best in the Indiana Jones canon for sure.
I love you guys. Thank you very much. But I'm hoping that we will do something with Dark Horse.
Here again.
Let's do it. Let's do it. We're looking forward to it.
Okay, guys.
Thanks again. Oh, what an awesome interview that was! And I'm telling you what a great time we had with that.
He
really enjoyed that.
Yeah, he is really just a great guy, very gracious with his time and
passionate. He's so passionate about the character. That's what I love about it.
Fan. He is such a fan.
That's what I love about this. Sometimes we talk to people and they're like, were you an Indy fan? It's like, no, but I enjoyed some things. But man, you could tell it really comes out. He's really an Indiana Jones fan.
Yeah, for sure. And like I mentioned before, we've been, the three of us have been writing emails back and forth to each other about maybe possibly, doing a few other things with Indiana Jones, which we won't really get into now, but then maybe that'll whet your appetite a little bit for the future. But he has just been absolutely great with what he's given us as fans. And we can only be super appreciative of what he's done for us. So thank you very much.
Fedora's off to Dan Reed, because that, Keith, when you and I started this, we thought we'd get a few segments out of it, and we thought maybe we could talk to some people, but I don't think either one of us figured we'd be able to talk to as many people who worked on the issue, the creators of these issues, let alone get original artwork. IndyCast exclusives. I mean, make no mistake, these are IndyCast exclusives that we have on these, and we are completely grateful. I mean, think of the stuff we got from Kerry Gamble, unpublished artwork, stuff we're getting from Dan Reed, original IndyCast artwork. This is just awesome. So again, Fedora's off to Dan Reed, and for everybody that's jumped in and helped us out of this. And we also have some original pencils that we found online from Further Adventures that Dan Reed had done. So we're going to get pictures of those up if you want to see some of the original pencils from the issue. And some of the art is actually for sale. You can go ahead and purchase it. A piece of Indiana Jones history from Dan the man himself.
Yes, and we will definitely post some of those links to where you can find that artwork. Very cool stuff. Very cool splash page from issue number 10.
Yeah,
definitely give it a look. Yeah, very cool stuff.
We'll get that up on the show notes, and we'll put the artwork up on the Facebook page and the Flickr page.
Of course. And up next, we got a very special guest who will join us in the grand reopening of the Raven's Nest.
Oh, finally, it's done. We got finally, and we've got a new interior decorator in the place. He's not as crazy. Hopefully, he won't blow up the place this time.
Exactly. Hopefully,
see if we can keep it around for a little while.
Yes,
special guest joining us in the Raven's Nest next time to help us open it up for our review of issue 9.
Keep that as a surprise, but so you guys are just going to have to tune in.
Your clue is there, though. It's issue number 9, Gold Goddess.
Okay, that's it for the day, then.
Well, as Indy said, that's all the time we have for today, Further fans. Thanks for joining us again. Keith, it's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed the Dan Reed interview.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, it's going to be great, and looking forward to breaking down issues 9 and 10 with you.
It's going to be a good time.
Again, thanks to Dan Reed. We appreciate everything. Check out our Facebook page for that original artwork. Keith, we want to hear from the listeners about issues 9, 10, the original artwork, anything dealing with Further Adventures. What can they do?
Write us an email. Send us to thefurtheradventures@gmail.com. Tell us your thoughts on the comic, the segment, the IndyCast, anything else that's on your mind. We're waiting to hear from you.
Make sure you join us next time for the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones.